Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 1205. 1,000-Year-Old Trap. Amon! Blasphemer Amon! Leonard was no stranger to the person in front of him. Not only had he faced his avatar, but he had also heard of his various deeds and nasty character from Old Man Palaz Zoroast. At that moment, Leonard's thoughts nearly froze as his mind went blank. Only a small number of thoughts could spin. Amon's lips suddenly quivered as he muttered a raving that was completely at the level of a deity. One voice after another echoed in Leonard's mind as though it came from the countless number of Amons. Are you pleasantly surprised? Are you shocked? After realizing that I won't be able to get Sapphira Castle any time soon, I shifted my focus to Backland. If it wasn't to fool all of you, why would I have played such a simple cat-and-mouse game with him? I think you two should be in contact. He must have told you that I'm still tracking him and sabotaging his operations, that I even set a trap for him at his destinations. That's just an avatar that's close to Sequence 1. Ah, right. Palaz, I forgot to tell you that in the later years of the Fourth Epoch, I pretended to be the ancestor of the Jacob family. I had long swallowed him in secret. Then I watched his descendants panic. Then I thought of a way to add another secret treasure trove to the place where Tudor became Blood Emperor. I didn't finish off these fellows, because I had a premonition that this treasure trove would be very useful. I had an avatar that had been sleeping there for more than 1,000 years, patiently waiting for someone to open the treasure trove. As for the other avatars, I didn't synchronize this information to them. That way, I might be able to create a ruse at some point in time. Yes, this kind of synchronization is something I invented. Palaz, you're quite behind the times. In order to confirm your whereabouts, I watched that bunch of fellows destroy the traps and take the items away. I watched your avatar steal the characteristic and sealed artifact from their hands. I watched him carefully devour and digest it. Now my patience has finally paid off. I guess you must be thinking of how to stall for time and wait for a deity's descent. These voices overlapped each other, tearing through Leonard's thoughts and hurting his soul. It made his head swell and contract, causing a bunch of short black hair to grow on his face. It made his ribs and waist bulge as though it was about to form a new body. With just the ravings alone, Leonard was close to losing control. He was in extreme pain and had no means of resisting. This was the son of the Creator, a king of angels. At the same time, 7 Pinster Street changed. At some point in time, pitch-black stone pillars were erected around them, propping up a majestic cathedral. Each column of the cathedral was embedded with the bones of different races. They were densely packed as they used different eye sockets to stare at the puny Leonard who stood in the middle as though they were conducting a trial. Amon stood in front of the cross that was more than 100 meters tall in the depths of the church, smiling as he looked at Leonard's grimacing face. This corpse cathedral is pretty good, isn't it? I just stole it not long ago. This way, if they wish to discover any abnormalities here and do a deity's descent, it can stall for at least 30 seconds. That's enough. As he spoke, Amon raised his hand to pinch the crystal monocle that had a beaming face underneath it. Leonard suddenly heard a gong. It was ethereal, as though it came from an infinite distance away. This caused the ear-piercing ravings that tainted Leonard's spirit body to come to an abrupt stop as everything around him turned silent. In Leonard's eyes, beams of light shot out from his body, condensing into a pure figure that was like a wingless angel. The figure was also 100 meters tall, and its body constantly coruscated with a faint glow, as though it was announcing the passage of time. With that, Leonard's body was pushed by an invisible force as he flew towards the door of the corpse cathedral. On the door, transparent and distorted faces appeared. They sealed the inside from the outside, isolating it from the spirit world and the astral world. Gong! Another bell rang. The transparent faces filled with pain froze. Leonard's figure was no longer obstructed. In this short span of time, he passed through the main door of the corpse cathedral, without feeling anything. Everything he saw instantly returned to normal. There was still a bit of light high up in the sky. The gas lamps by the side of the streets were already emitting light, illuminating 7 Pinster Street. From the outside, The building was silent, quiet, and dark. There was nobody around. Old man. It was only at this moment that Leonard finally found his train of thought. His heart tightened as he strode forward and returned to the house. However, the door to 7 Pinster Street was so heavy that he couldn't open it any time soon. With this obstruction, Leonard finally regained some of his senses. He hurriedly retreated as he quickly thought of what he could do to save Old Man. After a few steps, he stopped and lowered his head with a solemn expression. He quickly chanted in Jotun, "The fool that doesn't belong to this era." Leonard already knew that the one inside was Amon's true body. And to deal with Amon's true body, he could only seek help from a god. Walking through the darkness with the lantern in hand, Klein entered the historical fog immediately. Then, he took 4 steps counterclockwise and went above the gray fog. After listening to Leonard's prayer, the puzzled and nonchalant-looking Klein instantly sobered up. It was as if he had just woken up from hibernation and had just climbed out of bed when he was splashed with a basin of cold water. Amon's true body has gone to Backland. Amon's true body has found Leonard and Pallas. Amon stole the corpse cathedral from his brother and used it to delay a divine descent. So it turns out that when he suggested that we play the game of who will be the first to find Black Demonic Wolf Kotar, he had never thought of deciding on a winner. He didn't care what the stakes were either. His goal was to draw my attention and believe that he is still pursuing me and trying to steal Sapphira Castle from me. The trap hidden in the Jacob family's treasure trove was planted by Amon for 1,000 to 2,000 years. It has finally come into play. Many thoughts flashed through Klein's mind as he raised his right hand and summoned an item from the junk pile. 0 to 61, Box of the Great Old Ones. This was a Grade 0 sealed artifact, and it was also from the Apprentice Pathway. It could better utilize the power of Sapphira Castle and produce better results. In the face of Amon's true body, this might bring Pallas some hope. At the same time, through the prayer light, Klein confirmed that Leonard hadn't been possessed by Amon. He immediately instructed in the tone of Mr. Fool, "Leave the scene and go to an Evernight cathedral. Also, pray to Evernight." A pinnacle sequence battle beneath deities was definitely not something that a Beyonder at Leonard's level could participate in. Even though Klein had gained some initial control of Sapphira Castle and held 0 to 61, he didn't have much confidence. He only hoped that he could stall for time until a deity's descent happened. Outside 7 Pinster Street, Leonard heard Mr. Fool's words echoing in his ears. He was stunned for a moment before he looked up at the tightly shut door. Then, he turned around and used his right knuckle to ruthlessly knock on a certain tooth. A series of illusory mud surged out and sprayed onto the top of Leonard's head, enveloping him from top to bottom. Suddenly, Leonard seemed to transform into a mud doll as he kept sinking to the ground and fusing into the earth. This was a rare natural spirit he had exchanged from the Hermit of Fate. It didn't contain any Beyonder characteristics, and its powers mainly came from the spirit world. It allowed Leonard to quickly traverse the soil at a speed far faster than the steam metro. As Leonard left the battlefield, Klein had picked up the gem-embedded box of the Great Old Ones. He stirred the power of Sapphira Castle and cast his gaze at the pitch-black church that overlapped with the embedded bones. The cathedral isolated his true vision, preventing him from seeing the situation inside. He could only determine that the battle had yet to end through the flashes of light that the stained glass let through. Use 0-61's first level's powers to swap its interior space with the corpse cathedral? No. Isn't this equivalent to letting Amon enter Sapphira Castle? Just the first level of the box of the Great Old Ones cannot imprison him. Activate the second level and move the entire 7 Pinster Street somewhere else? No, it won't work either. Once we leave Backland, there won't be a timely divine descent. It will be even more dangerous for Pallas Zoros. Third level? Opening it might lead to a switch in owners of Sapphira Castle. As his thoughts flashed through his mind, Klein came up with an idea. He wanted to narrow the target area to a tiny point and exert pressure on it to crack it. He wanted to exchange the Corpse Cathedral's door and the space in the first level of the box of the Great Old Ones using Sapphira Castle, so that the seal that isolated the spirit world and the astral world would be ineffective. If that was the case, the deities would realize the situation and accelerate the speed of a deity's descent. At the end of the long, mottled table, Klein sat in his high-backed chair and aimed at the crimson star representing Leonard as he opened the first level of the box of the Great Old Ones. The surging power in Sapphira Castle suddenly calmed down, returning to its usual concealment as it silently pierced through the crimson star. In the real world at 7 Pinster Street, the door of the corpse cathedral that overlapped with ordinary buildings lost its luster. Following that, it became a light pool with gravel and cobblestone. The situation inside and outside suddenly cleared up, and it was reflected in Klein's eyes. In front of the cross that was 100 meters tall, the black-robed, pointed hat, and a monocled Amon slowly turned around to the opened door. He held a crystal pillar formed from light and shadows in his hands. There were many 12-ringed worms of time swimming rapidly inside. Everything around them seemed to stop. Amon raised his head and looked up into the sky as the corners of his mouth curled up.